Jingle bells, shotgun shells, Santa must be near, bringing every boy and girl an extra case of beer.
You're listening to Late Night Radio on the SHR Media Network. Caution, there will be mature themes explored and potentially adult language used. If conservatarian words, phrases, certain concepts, or rhetoric offends you, tune out now.
I have come here to chew bubble gum and kick ass. And I'm all out of bubble.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, I'm running a little bit late. Welcome to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, where I'm broadcasting from a free state, an actual free state. I am this guy. I am your conservative Sherpa, and what that means is that I am guiding you through the insidious maelstrom of Demorat, leftist, and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, tyranny, and betrayal. It happens to be Thursday night. It's December the 4th, the year of our Lord 2025, and welcome to y'all. So, please note that what you're about to hear for the next, 2 hours consists of my opinion only. BZ, be a mensch and put up the comments. There we go. BZ has just been a mensch and put up the comments. So welcome to everybody here. I am doing the job the American media maggots fundamentally will not do. I am changing America one leftist diaper at a time. And here, we don't water our drinks just like we don't water our conversations. We're still serving stiff drinks right here in the saloon, along with facts, history, logic, rationality, proportion, clarity, context, tradition, and common sense. Plus, politics, religion, crime, culture, race, sex, economics, science, law. We talk about it all right here at the saloon. Wax on, wax off. Right here tonight. But the speech is free here. But the booze is not. I'm telling you, this is true. In the saloon, free beer tomorrow. Come back. You'll get your free beer. I am streaming right now on a mega plethora of all sorts of different types of places. Those places would be like here. Quick, read that real fast. How fast can you read that? Really fast? Okay, it's gone. Boom, you didn't read it fast enough. You're going to have to move your eyes faster to catch the show. And also, I have my new Merry Christmas chat room where, of course, as per normal, let me take the banner off here. It is plush, sumptuous, palatial, and resplendent. Look at that view. Do you know how much money I had to pay for that view? Welcome to Phantom. Welcome to Licky Robinson. Welcome to Unpleasant Blind Guy. Did I go? See, in the comments, though, sadly, I cannot go up to see all the comments that are in there. But in any event, anyway, jump into our chat room. And where might that be? That can be found at the SHR Media YouTube network, just like it says right here. And I'm going to give you something sad. Very sad. So sad. Wait, hold on a second. That's how sad it is. God, I'm in my 70s and I'm still doing this stupid crap. Anyway, welcome to the show, and I welcome everybody here. Oh, I was going to tell you what really sad was. This is sad. We were at 682 subscribers, and I check just before I come to the show. I check to see how many we've expanded. We've lost 2 subscribers. What the hair? How does that crap happen? I know it's the people that were about to watch my show decided to unsubscribe because if a moron boob like this would wear a flashing reindeer whatever the hell this is, then it must certainly not be a show worth watching. By the way, I don't know if you can see, I have a new tiara tonight, and this is from a Warren Zevon song. I'll let you guys look it up. Now, I'm going to lean in just for a second so you can read it. It's a hat directly from Madam Wong at Lee Ho Fooks. So here, this is what it says. Now, with luck, I didn't bump my reindeer into the screen, and so I'm very happy with that. And of course, and thanks to KLRN's Rick Robinson, who is here tonight in the chat room, right over there. There he is. I see him. And there are other people that are in the chat room here. So ever my thanks to you for being here tonight. Tonight, I had a Saturday night special almost a week ago. And in that, I talked about what it is that Mark Kelly, the seditionist in the United States, he thinks he's a former military officer in the Navy. He's going to have a rather wild surprise when he discovers that there is no such thing as a former officer in the Navy. I described it on my Saturday night special. And because it was Saturday night, I didn't get that many people in attendance. Okay, get it. I had politics to do, and I had to get it out of my system. And I did. I was much better after that. Not quite so coffee. I took a sucrets, sous de throat, blah, blah. Okay, that's way dated. That's like from the 60s. Sucrets de sous de throat. And he's not even talking about the lamentations of the women, which is, again, you had to be on that show. Actually, that was back on I-5 when I threw the quart of vodka at the bicyclist that was on the freeway. That was weird. That was a really strange day. But I had been drinking way too heavy for that kind of stuff. But it was on I-5, so mostly it was in Califailure, so no one predominantly cared. So welcome to the show. And the show tonight is this. Hypocritical Demorats are lying again. Because as they always say, it's fine when we do it. When you do it, you can go to hell. Well, I'll have proof and the receipts and audio and articles to show you about that, because that's what I do on the show. So thank you for showing up. We do have the carousel of amusing GURP. I'm going to ask you a question kind of in the midst of that. I'm going to show you, give you a little Jake update. There will be a standby for news thing. We'll go into what Mark Kelly likely will be facing. We'll talk about the drug boat, rampantly stupid, ridiculous, hoaxic crap that the Demorats are again pushing. If you missed this morning's show from Mission Ready Men, from Earl Jackson, he went into a good amount of detail. Oh, there he is, Mission Ready Men. Hyping your show, dude. He went into a great amount of detail, and go to the SHR Media YouTube channel to go see it from this morning, about the Republicans. And I'm going to go a little bit into that as well. I don't think I'm going to say anything mostly that you have not heard before, but as I said on prior shows, I'm going to keep hyping this up, because there is no, it's a bifurcated path for the Republicans. Maybe a trifurcated, but at least bifurcated. And I will explain why and how that comes about. Then we're going to be talking about Minnesota a little bit. We're going to be talking about Muzzies and Somalis, etc. And then, kind of at the end, depending on how quickly I get through all of this, I have to say I have just a poop load of happy stories for you. Before that, here's my Jake update. Today, he had a not so great day. Today, he was very spicy. And I think what's happening is that when he was feeling much better and he wasn't losing weight, he has arthritis. in his hips, besides everything else that you can possibly imagine on the planet. This poor little bastard. He's 11 years old, and I think because we couldn't be giving him the injections to help ameliorate his pain, his arthritis is either coming back or it's back, and he's pretty testy today. Now, he is still going outside. He's doing what must be done when nature calls, and that's good for him because this is what the place looks like now. This is earlier, and since then we've had about another, I'd say maybe 6 inches to 1 foot of snow. So it's snowy around here, and it's cold, and this poor little guy has no insulation. I don't know if you can see his legs or his feet, his head. I mean, whatever kind of fat or insulation, and he's losing muscle too, as well, that he once had. We went and got him a little down coat. Now, if you can look, you can see that he's got a blue coat, and then he's got his little down coat on top of this to try to see if we can make him warm. He keeps going out, but when he goes out, especially now in the snow, man, he just gets cold. And I want to tell you, from me to you and from SHR, Merry Christmas from BZ. I wish I had a tree that looks like that. I don't, but it's Christmas time in the city, and it's Christmas time way out in the, well, I'm about 90 miles from Canada, and it's, the snow is here. But anyway, Merry Christmas from me, from BZ, and also from SHR. It is time for this. I decided that, okay, one day I'll get some music for it. Okay, give me a darn break. I do have an amusing thing, and then I have a serious thing, and then I have, for a third feature in the carousel of amusing GURP, the third feature is, it's about a 9-minute video that I'm torn to play for you. I may come back later if, in fact, there's time. Hey, Cosmic Bard is in chat. Excellent. Good to see you. Christmas time. That means KRLN radio play time. And Cosmic Bard, did you get that $100 bill I sent you to make sure that I'm in the radio play? So the first thing I'm going to play is, I heard this probably 20 years ago, and it's old, but to me, it's still fun.
A penguin takes his car into the shop, and the mechanic says he needs an hour to check it out.
What kind of car?
What kind of... A damn penguin car, all right? Anyway, he goes across the street to the 7-Eleven to kill some time and get an ice cream. Penguins love ice cream.
Really?
Sure. But because he's got no hands, the poor little guy gets the ice cream all over his beak.
It's going somewhere.
So he goes back to the mechanic. The guy tells him, looks like it blew a seal. The penguin tells him, no, that's just a little ice cream.
I got it. Anyway, here's another one. I came across this. Now, I have played this on the show any number of times for vastly different and smaller audiences, but it bears repeating today. Does anybody really truly know? So I would say almost none of the Demorats and damn few of the Republicans know the difference between a democracy and a republic.
A democracy is a political system in which the people periodically, by majority vote at the polls, select their rulers. The rulers then have absolute power to make whatever laws they please by majority vote among themselves. In a constitutional republic, the people also, by majority vote at the polls, select rulers who make laws by majority vote among themselves. But the rulers cannot make any laws they please because the Constitution severely restricts their lawmaking power. The ideal of a democracy is universal equality. The ideal of a constitutional republic is individual liberty. In this century, great strides have been made toward the goal of subverting our republic and transforming it into a democracy. The foremost tactic of the subverters is subversion of language. By calling America a democracy until people thoughtlessly accept and use the term, totalitarians have obscured the real meaning of American principles of government. The writers of the Constitution were anxious to safeguard liberty against dictatorship, monarchy they called it. But their chief anxiety was to protect the country against democracy. Edmund Randolph, delegate to the Constitutional Convention from Virginia, said the general object of the convention was to provide a cure for the follies and fury of democracy. Elbridge Gerry and Roger Sherman, delegates from Massachusetts and Connecticut, urged the Constitutional Convention to create a system to eliminate the evils that flow from the excess of democracy. Alexander Hamilton, delegate from New York, said, "We are now forming a Republican government. Real liberty is not found in democracy. If we incline too much to democracy, we shall soon shoot into a monarchy." John Adams, one of the giants of the American Revolutionary period, said, "Democracy will envy all, contend with all, endeavor to pull down all. And when by chance it happens to get the upper hand for a short time, democracy will be revengeful, bloody, and cruel." America was founded not as a democracy, but as a constitutional republic. We pledge allegiance to the republic for which our flag stands, not to a democracy. The Constitution requires a republican form of government for all states, but does not mention democracy, and neither does the Declaration of Independence or the Bill of Rights. Someone asked him, what kind of government?
And so we know what kind of a government it is. It is a constitutional republic. Or as Professor Dr. Jones, Michael Jones, the underground professor, used to say, it's a constitutionally federated republic. If for no other reason, I decided that I was going to play that tonight. So if you're bored and somebody at some point asks you, well, gee, what is the difference between a democracy and a republic? You can tell them. Because this is not a democracy. And you saw clearly illustrated by the video where this country tends to go or will go if and when it does become an actual democracy. Earl at Mission Ready Men sent this and put this up. He said, when I saw this post from Al Jazeera, I had a very visceral reaction, the likes of which I haven't had to a tweet or any other digital diarrhea in recent memory, if ever. Then I watched it. Those 10 minutes pissed me off even more. And then he says, let's see if you feel the same way. This is the video that he's talking about. And this is the conundrum that I'm facing. I have a lot of stuff to play tonight. I ordinarily use up all of my 2 hours, unless I'm just lazy, or more. I would love to be able to play this. I watched this. 210 over 190 occurred, but it's very important to watch because this is from Al Jazeera. This is them weighing in on our Constitution, and this is them telling us how we must change our Constitution. Gosh, is anybody with me on this? I didn't think so. Well, first, let's begin here, if we can. And that's, where's my story stuff? Here we go. We're going to stand by for news because I've got some stories first. This was rather amazing. Who is Brian Cole Jr., the DC pipe bomb suspect? If you weren't aware, the pipe bomb suspect that has been wanted essentially since January 5th of 2021, almost 5 damn years now, dropped devices in front of the RNC and the DNC. And of course, when people said, well, gosh, the man is finally arrested. A, why did you take so damn long? And B, clearly it's going to prove that he's nothing but a white supremacist getting involved with the J6ers. There were also other stories indicating that he was nothing but an anarchist. So he's been identified, and I'm going to say it just once, then probably never say his name again because it mostly isn't worth re-mentioning. He's Brian Cole Jr. of Woodbridge, Virginia. What is Virginia anything more than the bedroom community for DC, where all the leftists live? And two sources said that's his name on the arrest. He's 30. He's in FBI custody as of today after about 5 years of investigation. They arrested him in North Virginia. He's going to make his first court appearance in D.C. because that's where the crimes occurred on Friday, tomorrow. They have not released any information about him. That should not shock anybody. But they said that the FBI is carrying out court-enforced activity at Cole's residence. There's the suspect. Leftists, Demorats, anarchists, whose melanin count means everything. Here's your suspect. Here's your white supremacist. Now, the investigation is at the very, very, very beginning. For whatever combination or series of reasons, they've decided that it took, and it probably will take, an even greater amount of time to figure out what the hell this guy was doing and or who he is. So there's much more yet to go. Also, I want to bring this to your attention, but I'm not going to play it. Tonight appears to be the night of potentially long videos. I've been in correspondence with a gentleman who says that he can put me in touch with General Flynn. I'm waiting for a response back. I'm guessing it's going to be something like, maybe yes, maybe no. We'll wait and see what it goes. But this is General Flynn, a man with whom I have a great deal of respect for, even though he goes on Alex Jones' show. But a clock can be stopped. A stopped clock can be right twice a day. And Alex Jones runs between Nutter and between, holy crap, he's been telling us this stuff for years now. Which is why I say, with regard to most every damn thing that you see on the internet these days, you'd best suss it out, figure it out yourself, and don't plaster things all over the internet unless you've had a modicum of research. And as I've told Mrs. BZ any number of times, if you're going through social media and you happen to be a conservative and you see something that indicates, wow, that's great. That's absolutely great. And you think it's too good to be true? Well, it probably is too good to be true. Now, as I say, I cannot put up my show links on YouTube. My show links are too long. There are too many of them to put into the space that YouTube allows me for the show. However, on Rumble, on the SHR Media Group Rumble page, you will find me, BZ, the Bloviating Zeppelin, and under each and every show, you'll see a complete and lengthy list of my show links. You will find this link. Oh, gee, I'm nodding in the wrong direction. Okay, go this way, BZ. This one, shit, come on, at least point the right way. This one right here will be in the show links. And basically what this says is that Flynn is calling on Trump to immediately address the nation concerning the color revolution being fomented by the seditious Six and the CIA, as he lays out the string of legal investigations and lawfare that the leftists have been engaging in for over a decade, and mostly have been getting away with it. Unleash Jeremy Hansen, great to see you here. Unpleasant Blind Guy says, yeah, don't worry about playing it. Well, I'm not going to, I don't believe. There just isn't enough time and way too many stories to go into at this point. As I indicated with Mark Kelly, one of the reasons that there are a lot of things about him that people do not know. For example, this is Mark Kelly. Hey, look, there he is, associating with Alex Soros. To me, just me, that's me personally, that's all I need to know about that bastard. Now, okay, he was an astronaut, big whoop, and he flew a plane. Okay, George Bush did, John McCain did, take that wherever you wish. But this guy also got money to start his balloon company. That is to say, surveillance type air high in the air in the stratosphere balloons. He acquired money from the communist Chinese for his country, for his company. And again, to me, that is a large indicator of what this guy is all about. But I'm going to read for you an article that I read on Saturday. I'm going to start it, interrupt with a break because I myself am going to have to partake. And then I'll come back and finish the article. And I hope by its conclusion, you'll be able to see that the situation regarding Mark Kelly is absolutely nothing like the American media maggots attempt to portray, or the Demorats, or the leftists, or the anarchists, globalists, anybody else. It's not anything like they say. Because in his case, the UCMJ is the overlord. Now, this is an article by a retired officer by the name of Joseph Fosco. It says, it's titled, "A Retired Officer's Preemptive Call for Disobedience, the Imperative of a Court-Martial for Captain Mark Kelly, retired under the UCMJ." This deals with the UCMJ, and that is the body of law under which he is held, not the First Amendment, and you'll begin to understand why in just a moment. So I'm going to, let's see, set things up here because I'm going to have to take a break in between this article, but I want to make sure that I set up the break. Anyway, this is from November 24th, 2025. So this article is not long ago at all, just a week or two. And it starts this way. On November 18th, 2025, United States Senator Mark Kelly, a retired Navy captain and former astronaut, appeared in a widely disseminated video alongside 5 other Democratic lawmakers. I've weighed in on that video quite a number of times. The stated purpose was to remind service members of their oath to the Constitution and their duty to refuse unlawful orders. Fairly simple on its face, would it seem? What Senator Kelly actually delivered, however, was a direct premeditated appeal to active duty personnel to contemplate selective obedience to the commander-in-chief before any order had ever been issued. The Pentagon's subsequent announcement of an investigation with the explicit possibility of recall to active duty and court-martial of Mark Kelly is not political theater. You will understand. It is the lawful and necessary response to a retired regular officer's violation of Articles 88, 94, and 133 of the UCMJ. First, the jurisdictional foundation is unambiguous. He goes into a code which expressly subjects members of the regular Navy who are retired in grade and entitled to retired pay to the UCMJ in the same manner as active duty officers. Captain Mark Kelly meets both criteria. The Supreme Court has never disturbed this statutory reach, and the Department of Defense has exercised it repeatedly against retired regular officers for post-retirement misconduct, ranging from financial fraud to public contempt toward the president. Retirement, this is important, retirement for a regular officer, it is not a separation. It is a change of status and not a release of discipline.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
In a world where leftists are running out of metal for the safety pins of their soothing red diapers, one man stands alone, attempting to fundamentally change America, one leftist diaper at a time. BZ, your conservative Sherpa, is guiding you through the maelstrom of Democrat leftists and globalist lies, chaos, deceit, and betrayal. Listen to BZ Saloon on select and exclusive Tuesday and Thursday nights at 8 p.m. Pacific, 10 p.m. Central, and 11 p.m. Eastern on the SHR Media YouTube channel, Twitch, KLRN, Rumble, and X at BZ Saloon. It's one great late-night conservatarian talk radio show. Be there. Aloha.
Hello, friends. Do you have a moment so that we may discuss our Lord and Savior Minarchy? No, seriously, I'm just kidding. Hi, my name's Rick Robinson. I am the general manager of KLRNradio.com. We are probably the largest independent podcast network that you've never heard of. We have a little bit of everything, and by that, what I mean to tell you is we have news, pop culture, special events, conspiratainment, true crime, mental health shows, drama productions, and pretty much everything in between. So if you're looking for a new podcast home to grab a little bit of everything that you love all in one place, come check us out. You can find us on X under @KLRNradio. You can find us on our Rumble and our YouTube channels under the same names. You can also find us at KLRNradio.com and pretty much every podcast catcher known to man. So again, feel free to come check us out anytime you like at KLRN Radio.
It's Sean from the Edge of Liberty. Just like the Bidens, I too am moving. Only in my case, it's days and times. That's right, you can now find the Edge of Liberty Monday at 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 Eastern, and Wednesday at 8 p.m. Pacific and 11 Eastern on the SHR Media Network. Join me as we talk politics, news, alcohol, fun, not so much fun, clowns, small kittens, large kittens, dogs, amoebas, and anything else that just pops into my mind while I'm on the air. That is Monday and Wednesday, 8 p.m. Pacific, 11 on the East Coast, on YouTube, X, KLRN Radio, Facebook, Twitch, and anywhere else a good podcast is found. Please check out our website, shrmedia.com. I will see you live on the air.
Attention, all patriotic women of faith. Yep, I'm talking to you, sis. Are you looking for high-quality, super soft apparel that reflects your love for country and your devotion to God? Look no further than Carry Girl Gear. Picture this. You rocking a tee so soft it's like being hugged by a cloud, all while showing off your love for God and country. Sounds dreamy, right? Well, welcome to reality, babes, because that's what we're all about here at Carry Girl Gear. We specialize in super soft tees, tanks, and more, designed specifically for the strong, patriotic woman who proudly wants to carry their message of faith and freedom. When you shop with us, you're not just getting a t-shirt. You're joining a community of like-minded women who are proud to wear their beliefs straight on their tees. So whether you're sipping sweet tea on the porch or leading the charge for faith and freedom, do it in a Carry Girl tee. Because life's too short for stiff, boring tees. CarryGirl.com, where faith and freedom meets fashion.
Independence. With that declaration, America was born. Inspired by a belief in the God-given rights of every human being, and in the good that comes from exercising these rights well. The founders of our great nation chose independence. As do we. Hillsdale College accepts no government funding because independence makes possible the good to which we aspire.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
I'm back. I'm BZ. It is 34 minutes after 8 p.m. Pacific, which means it's 10:34 Central and 11:34 Eastern and 1729.7235 Drawer 5, Sandbog 2 to the right of the eastern red-backed squirrel in Bolivian time, but I never really did understand Bolivian time, so let's just keep it in normal time right here. Hey, I forgot to say one thing. Last Tuesday night, I received in the mail this cap. Now, if you look on the back of this, hey, it's embroidered. It's my name right here on a cap. And this cap represents ROX, which is the Republic of Communist Squirrels. I didn't know they had a republic. I didn't know that they had a flag. But wait. As I look over the hat flashingly, "No, BZ, this doesn't stand for Republic of Common of either that of communist squirrels or common squirrels for that matter. It's the Reaver of Common Sense." So Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense, sent me a very nice, personally monogrammed hat, beautiful hat, to me here in Nove, Idaho. So to Jersey Joe, I want to say thank you ever so kindly. That's a wonderful, wonderful thing, and I thank you very, very much. Earlier, I was talking about this gentleman, Mark Kelly, and the problems that he has generated for himself. I just stopped for the break because, well, things had to occur. That's just the way life goes. But what I was saying is that he may be in for a bit of a surprise in terms of what is awaiting him over a hill. The Demorats and leftists seem to think that it's all about violating his First Amendment. And I'm stuck on this thingy with regard to Mark Kelly. If I'm not mistaken, he's married to Gabby Giffords. She was shot a long time ago. I don't remember by whom, but I'm sure it was probably somebody that they insisted was a conservative or a Republican. And she became a massive gun grabber at that point and wanted to take everyone's firearms. You know, I get it. I grok that concept, but she and he make a wonderful team together because he loves communists. And he may, in fact, be fighting a little bit of an uphill struggle. He and the 5 other people that were Demorats, one former CIA minion, were all saying to our military people, do not obey illegal orders. Now, we're not going to tell you what kind of illegal orders that you shouldn't obey. We're just going to leave that shit really nebulous because, hell, we don't want to find our asses sued. You know, we like our incomes and we like all the extra stock market tips that we get via insider trading. We don't want to mess with that crap. But this is a story that I began to read before the break from a gentleman by the name of Joseph Fosco, who is a retired officer, saying that it would appear that Mark Kelly is in perhaps for a bit of a kerfuffle. And I ended with this: retirement for a regular officer, and he was an officer in the Navy. It's not a separation, it's a change of status, not a release from discipline. Now, second, the content of Senator Kelly's statement crosses every red line the military justice system has drawn since 1806. Article 88 criminalizes any commissioned officer's use of contemptuous words against the president, whether named or clearly referenced. Article 94 punishes mutiny or sedition, defined as any attempt with intent to usurp or override lawful military authority to create resistance to lawful authority. Most damning is Article 133, which captures conduct unbecoming an officer and a gentleman, formerly known in LAPD, for example, as CUBO, C-U-B-O. That clause is deliberately broad enough to encompass any act that seriously compromises the officer's standing or the discipline of the armed forces. Now, Senator Kelly did not confine himself to the anodyne observation that unlawful orders must be disobeyed. That proposition is taught in every boot camp and affirmed by the Department of Defense Law of War manual. He went much further. He instructed currently serving members to prepare themselves to refuse orders from the administration in advance of any order being given, on the implied premise that the incoming commander-in-chief is predisposed to illegality. Our current commander-in-chief, Donald John Trump. Now, as the officer writes, that's not education. It's a preemptive effort to erode the presumption of lawfulness that attaches to every superior's directive until proven otherwise. in a court of law. In the military context, where instantaneous obedience is the bedrock of operational effectiveness, such anticipatory defiance is indistinguishable from sedition. The senator's defenders will invariably invoke the First Amendment and the speech or debate clause. Both arguments collapse under scrutiny. And here's where he delineates why. The speech or debate clause protects only legislative acts on the floor or in committee. A social media video released to the general public is not a proceeding in Congress. More fundamentally, no civilian free speech right overrides the UCMJ. Let me repeat that again. No civilian free speech right overrides the UCMJ when Congress has expressly subjected a category of citizens, namely retired regular officers like Mark Kelly, to military jurisdiction. The Supreme Court reaffirmed in 1974 that the military is by necessity a specialized society separate from civilian society, and that speech restrictions valid in that society would be intolerable in civilian life. Nor can Senator Kelly shelter behind the fact that he is a United States senator. The Constitution does not create a privileged class of retired officers who may violate the UCMJ with impunity simply because they later win elective office. If anything, the combination of his retained rank and his public platform magnifies the damage. A captain's words can carry weight in barracks and on ships that a private citizen's never could. History offers no comfort to the senator. In 1952, the Army court-martialed retired Major General Robert Grove for diary entries critical of U.S. policy that fell into Soviet hands. In 1961, retired Army Major General Edwin A. Walker faced investigation, ultimately relieved of command, for public political activities deemed incompatible with his status. The principle is consistent. Retirement does not license a regular officer to use his rank as a continuing platform to undermine lawful authority. The remedy for that is straightforward. The Secretary of the Navy, exercising authority delegated under 10 U.S.C. 688 and DoD Instruction 13521, may recall Captain Kelly to active duty. That is to say, bring him out of his civilian status, now remove that, place him into active duty for the purpose of trial by general court-martial. He signed up for it. He is subject to it and subject to whatever consequences he apparently created himself. That's not retribution. It's accountability. And so conviction on any specification would carry penalties up to being dismissed, the retirement equivalent of a dishonorable discharge, forfeiture of all pay and allowances, and permanent loss of retired benefits accrued after 30 years of otherwise honorable service. I repeat, this is not retribution. This is accountability. A nation that permits retired regular officers to exploit, and that's what he's doing, exploiting his retained rank in order to sow anticipatory disobedience inside the active force, has already surrendered the principle of civilian control of the military. The Uniform Code of Military Justice, the UCMJ, exists precisely to prevent that surrender. So the bottom line is this: Captain Mark Kelly took an oath in 1987 that did not expire when he accepted retired pay, and it did not dissolve when he took a seat in the United States Congress. Until the law is changed by Congress, that oath and the jurisdiction it carries remains in force. This is the last paragraph, and this is where the officer really pushes the nail in. The Department of Defense has no honorable choice but to recall him, charge him, and try him. Anything less would constitute a tacit announcement that the UCMJ no longer binds those who have worn the cloth of the Republic at its highest levels. And he concludes with this: the integrity of the armed forces demands nothing less. And I would agree. I guess you could have said that was something of a BBS or a big, beautiful soliloquy. But for those people who were not listening this past Saturday night, I wanted to make sure that I include it here so that there is a greater understanding of what is going on, and that it has nothing to do with the Democrats. It has nothing to do with the First or the Second Amendment or any of the Bill of Rights. When Mark Kelly signed on the dotted line to serve and continue to serve, even when he retired, he held obligations. And he may be held to those consequences. This nation would be diminished if he was not held to those obligations. It's no more complicated than that. It's like, you know what? You want to fuck around? You're not that terribly far from finding out. Here's another thing that completely baffles me these days. Candace Owens. This is a man named Blake Neff. And I'm going to play just a slight bit of this video. But essentially it says, for the past 3 months, we've received a flood of questions at TPUSA, Turning Point USA, about Candace Owens and her claims attacking Charlie's closest friends. For 3 months, we preferred to remain silent, but the attacks have not stopped, and this is what he has to say.
We wanted to use this segment at the top of this hour to say something important, something very important. For the past 2.5 months, there is a topic that has flooded our Freedom inbox. It has been nonstop on social media, but which we have almost totally avoided on this show. You probably already know what I'm talking about, which shows just how ubiquitous it has been.
And there's Charlie's chair, unoccupied, to the left, and I don't believe it will ever be occupied. And I could have made a mistake. Maybe somebody else has sat in it recently. But finally, TPUSA has said, you know what? I think we're tired of catching numerous hits in the face from someone that just doesn't make sense. And he continues.
Ever since Charlie's murder, Candace Owens has leveled a flood of allegations against people at Turning Point USA, people at Turning Point Action, and people who work for this show. She's made them against some of Charlie's closest friends and against some of his most dedicated employees. She has suggested that Michael McCoy, Charlie's chief of staff, knew Charlie would be murdered, was happy that he died, and stayed silent because he was told he would be the next Charlie.
Stop. Again, see my Rumble page if you want to watch the rest of it. But I'm glad that TPUSA has finally decided, you know what? Our jurisdiction ends here. That is to say, we're going to begin to respond to this execrable crap that's been leveled, these hands full of fecal material that's been thrown at TPUSA by somebody who at once had some validity, but apparently doesn't anymore. If anyone can explain the current present mental situation of Candace Owens, please weigh in. And Mission Ready Man says, by the way, in chat, I am planning on getting into this in my next show. I didn't want to, but she's just gone way off the rails. I agree. And Earl, did you see this coming? I did not. Maybe somebody else did. My finger was not on the pulse ever of Candace Owens. She had some great retorts and comebacks over a couple of years, but mostly I didn't really look at much of her stuff. She seemed at the time that I remember listening to her stuff that she appeared to be very intelligent. And that's okay. That's about as much as I knew about that. It's like Ann Coulter. Ann Coulter disappeared. Somebody has told. And again, I don't much care about Ann Coulter, and I'm not sure that I care that much about Candace Owens, but they kind of sort of disappeared. Some people saying, oh, she became a nutter. And another one saying that she became just way too right wing. I don't know. Especially with Ann Coulter. I don't care. But with Candace Owens, to level these kinds of accusations against an individual assassinated in front of our fucking eyes, you'd better bring the evidence. And it better be visible. And you better have the receipts that are dated with times and dates. Otherwise, I'm sure these gentlemen, and when you watch the video on your own time, I'm sure he provides any number of reasons as to why this really is, it's so over the top. I have no idea where it's going, but I just make mention of it because not necessarily that I give a particular flying fuck about Candace Owens, but that she's denigrating an individual and their family and the organization that did so much good in the United States. And he had so many good places to go and will never be allowed to go there. Here's another thing that's just ridiculously, massively stupid. So Cook County in Illinois, by the way, that's the county in which Chicago rests, has decided that it's going to create its own UBI, its own universal basic income. What the hell?
One of the country's largest counties now securing a universal basic income program where low-income households are guaranteed monthly payments. Fox Business's Kelly Severi is live from Chicago, where this program is unfolding after a lot of public discourse over this decision. Kelly.
Good morning, Cheryl. This is what we know so far. $7.5 million will go towards this program, but who qualifies, how much the payments will be, and what recipients can spend this money on are still up in the air.
And the devil is in the details. Is it not? Because I'm sure that's what the taxpayers in Cook County want their beloved money spent on. More leftist, cringeworthy crap. Here's another individual that is cringeworthy. It's Newsom from Califailure. He's decided that he's going to go to D.C. with his hat in his hand. And it's like, explain this to me, Lucy. Explain to me, Lucy, how when you want something from an entity or an individual, the best choice of action or strategy is to make sure that when you do want something from them, you insult them heavily first, because that will place them into the a mindset of, oh, I really would like to help you. So he said he wants a long overdue federal aid package for LA fire survivors. Well, wait just a minute. I don't believe I have the article, but I know of it, and I bet you do too. It turns out that since January, almost a year ago, January this year, following the Palisades wildfire, not one home has been replaced in the area. And as a matter of fact, the residents who were affected, the victims who were affected, I may have this a little bit later on in the show. And if I don't, I still remember it. They went to the LA City Council for a meeting, and they asked that the city council waive various fees so that they can begin to do what Mayor Karen Bass promised from the get-go, as well as Newsom. Let's eliminate the red tape. I watched this meeting with President Trump. Karen Bass looked him in the eye and said, we're going to get rid of all this red tape and get these homes built back. No, none of that has happened. The city council has refused to waive fees. Oh, well, we're thinking about it. It may happen. It may not happen. And that's Califailure for you. That's what you get for believing in leftists. And it's like I say from the very beginning, Demorats are lying again. The hypocrisy is astounding. And what they're saying is, it's okay when we screw you around, but if we don't like, if the politics are such that they go against us, well, we're not going to have any truck with that whatsoever at all. Now I'm going to go into this, and oh my gosh, just one story, just one ping, Vasily.
Weapons grade stupid. The segment where anyone can play, but leftists are overqualified.
And in weapons grade stupid, the people that are subject to that today are the state of Washington. In the state of Washington, this is delusion run rampant. Amazon and Microsoft are talking about leaving the state of Washington because they've been there since forever because of this massive tax that the state of Washington just levied. It's a new payroll tax, and it will be coming shortly. And they said, okay, if you do in fact throw this at us, there's every chance we may be seriously considering leaving the state and not coming back.
So do you understand that there is a likelihood that businesses could decide, Microsoft just said they would, to move jobs out of the state? And are you concerned about that?
Right. So we have a situation with many major corporations, in particular Amazon and Microsoft, which I think one of which you had mentioned, have already been shedding jobs. They didn't need tax policy to be an impetus to invest in artificial intelligence. And the goal of that technology is to divest from human labor. We have seen many times in the state legislature the threat of jobs being relocated hung over the head of state lawmakers. Most famously, perhaps, in the example of Boeing, where they shook the state legislature down for the single largest corporate welfare package that was granted by a state government in the history of the republic. And then they moved the jobs anyway. I am much more concerned.
Corporations, sir, owe you nothing. They owe the community nothing. Their job is to profit. Their job is not be subject to loss, such that if they move, they can begin to retrieve and recoup some of their losses. And that's why businesses move. That's why businesses were forced out of the United States, because wages were rising. They're continuing to raise. And Washington, of course, along with California, is one of the states that is mandating very shortly a $30 an hour minimum wage. I made $5.05 in 1978, getting shot at for a coastal California county. Wow, I was taking all that money to the bank. And so they're pissed. If they say, like the crazy commie chick in Portland, who said that if you leave, if your markets leave, we're not going to let you leave. You have an obligation to lose money to the community and to the state. And if you don't like it, we'll make sure that you can't leave. Well, gosh, that's a commie philosophy as ever there was. But wait, he has a solution. Go.
About working people who are going to be displaced, working people who might move from Washington because they can't afford childcare, because they can't afford the cost of medicine, because this is not a good place to try to start or raise a family or go to school.
Who's responsible for that, mister? Who? I'm looking at him.
The perspective that you are speaking from, frankly, is very well represented in the state legislature by the major corporations that have spent millions over the years lobbying the state legislature, and they expect a return on investment. Those aren't the entities that I center in my policymaking. I believe that they're spoken for enough in Olympia.
Would you like them to leave, Representative Scott? Do you think that Amazon and Microsoft are a net good for our state?
Say more about that. When you say net good, what do you mean?
Do you think they contribute and add more value to our state than they detract?
I think that workers, were they to collectivize, could come up with something like Amazon on their own, but that Amazon can't
Okay. Did you catch that? Let me back this up, replay it, and then we're going to take a break. It went by really quickly. You have to listen specifically to what he's saying. Let's go back. And what did he say?
Could come up with something like Amazon on their own, but they're like workers, were they to collectivize, could come up with something like Amazon on their own, but that
Collectivize, unionize. They could collectivize and unionize. And they could come up with something just as efficacious as Amazon on their own, couldn't they? AYFKM.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Listen in to the Reaver of Common Sense, where we cut through the noise of news and politics with a show equipped for bombast. Tune in Mondays and Fridays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 p.m. Central, and 6 p.m. Pacific, featuring a refreshing dose of reality. Jersey Joe fearlessly tackles the tough topics with no nonsense. Just pure common sense. Visit shrmedia.com, where you can hear the Reaver of Common Sense in action. He may not always be polite. He may not always be refined. But one thing's for sure. He always tells it like it is.
Are you looking for a way to boldly express your faith and love for your country? And check out 7 Armors, the premier apparel company for patriotic men of God, where faith meets freedom in style. Our t-shirts are more than just clothing, they're statements. Bold, stylish, and meaningful. From timeless messages to modern designs, we've got something for every patriotic man of God. Wear your beliefs proudly with 7 Armors gear. Don't miss the chance to wear your faith and freedom on your sleeve. Visit 7armors.com today and join the movement. That's the number 7armors.com. 7armors.com. Faithful, vigilant, steadfast, passionate.
Are you looking for bold and honest conversation about the issues shaping America? Well, let me welcome you to Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen, where we take you beyond the headlines. We dive into politics and culture, struggles of everyday life. It's raw, real, and unfiltered. If you're ready for truth with a punch, pull up a chair and join us. That's right, Unleashed 101, where real talk feels like home. Find us at unleashed101.com, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, and more. We look forward to seeing you. Unleashed 101 with Jeremy Hansen.
Freedom. One nation in all of human history was built on that bedrock. Ours. A republic of the people, by the people, and for the people. Self-government requires freedom, just as freedom requires an individual willingness to self-govern. Freedom has made America exceptional, but it can only last as long as you and I seek the good, as expressed by the laws of nature and nature's God. It can only last if you and I choose to act as people of character. Forging character has been the pursuit of Hillsdale College since 1844.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And I'm back. I'm BZ. I'm nationwide. I'm not King Crimson. I'm not a king at all, but I play one on TV and certainly most deaf on this show. You're in the Saloon, BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show. It is Thursday night on our late show edifice, all around you, all around the fruited plain, and all around my little tiara that's up here. From Leho Fuchs, going to get a big dish of beef chow mein. Now does Leho Fuchs sound familiar? What song is that from? Gonna get a big dish of beef chow mein from Leho Fuchs. Come on, you know it. From the 70s. I think I told you who the artist was at the very beginning. Anyway, we were looking at this particular individual, and it appears that because of an impending tax, Microsoft and Boeing mostly left. There are some remnants left of Boeing. But Microsoft and Amazon were thinking of, if you continue to tax us to death, we're just going to pull up our skirts and leave. And this individual essentially had the temerity to say, at last we heard, that, you know what, all these people right here behind me, we can coalesce, we can create our very own coalition, our very own union, and we can create our own Amazon. We can create our own Microsoft. We don't need these stupid, silly corporations to make things work. And I think that's why this is weapons grade stupid. And I just, the rest of you want to listen to the rest of the thing. It's just another stupid leftist going, blah, 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 blah. And for those of you who just tuned in. Now we're going to go to this. This is the meat of the matter tonight. And also why the story tonight is that, you know what? When we're hypocrites, don't look. It's okay when we do it. When you do something stupid, well, gosh, we'll point it out. We can never do anything stupid. Because wasn't it all the Demorats in D.C. recently who were saying continuously, you know what? Hegseth ordered everybody to be killed. Killed. It turns out, no, he didn't. And it turns out that the ROE, the rules of engagement, have pretty much not changed ever. Not since Bush, not since Clinton, not since Obama. Obama, if you can recall, was himself the drone king. And so Tom Cotton came out after watching a video today and said, Hegseth did not issue that kill them all order. And an admiral spoke to Congress today and delineated that. This is an interesting article. This was from the Washington Post by Mark Thiessen. Trump's drug boat strike playbook was written by Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. I'm sure you're shocked, I tell you, to hear any of that. The former president's double tap attacks were not unlawful. Neither are the current ones. Now, the Washington Post reported last week that based on a spoken directive from Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, the U.S. military carried out what is known as a double tap strike in the Caribbean Sea, hitting a Venezuelan vessel that had the signature of a drug boat, then launching a follow-up strike that sank the boat and killed the survivors. Because as we all know, that's a fishing vessel. Okay, because when you fish in open waters, in blue waters, you want to make sure that you have boats that are fast enough to keep up with the fish, because the fish in the open waters are so fast, you need these zippy boats. And all those blue jugs that are right there, when you drive a boat that quickly, that fast, you get really thirsty. That's all these people are, just poor fishermen. Or people out for a little bit of a jaunt in the middle of the Oceanus on a pleasure cruise. That's all they were. They never meant to offend or harm anybody. But who wrote this? Who started this? Well, yes, that was Barack Hussein Obama. And I mentioned this last Saturday night, but I mentioned this again because it's for you to be able to remember so that you can throw these facts back in the faces of the people that said, oh, Pete Hegseth, warmonger, killer, should be tried, should be imprisoned forever. Anybody associated with Trump In the Department of War, it's called the Department of War for a reason. Hello. Department of War. This is the first time that the war on drugs has ever actually yielded a war on drugs. It just, to even think that we would stoop so low as to do that is just brain blowing. Why would you ever say that you want a war on drugs and then you actually begin to wage a war on drugs? Fie on you. Terrible, heinous. Evil Trump is sinking Venezuelan drug boats. Anybody remember Panama in 1989? Congress didn't sign off on the invasion of Panama. President George H.W. Bush Sr. ordered the invasion. Hey, without seeking a declaration of war or a formal congressional approval. So they did not formally authorize the military action, but he did it anyway. And Noriega was captured, the strongman of Panama. Nobody said, you didn't see the Demorats all lining up. Oh, evil H.W. Bush and his Secretary of Defense. No, we must put them all in prison. No, nothing like that. Remember President Clinton, for example, and Haiti in 1994? By the way, Bush cited his constitutional authority to do that as commander-in-chief to order the invasion, which he dubbed Operation Just Cause. He did it, caught Noriega, forgotten, everybody moved along, including the Demorats. Like I said, remember President Clinton and Haiti in 1994? No. As a matter of fact, President Clinton did not receive specific formal congressional authorization, like, a declaration of war or some kind of a joint resolution, before he deployed troops to Haiti in 1994 for Operation Uphold Democracy. And do you remember the loving, glowing Barack Hussein Obama won each, killing a U.S. citizen in 2011? U.S. citizen. Anwar al-Awlaki. He's a U.S.-born guy and a key leader that turned out to be in Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula. He was killed in a deliberate drone strike ordered by Barack Obama in a foreign country, in Yemen, in September of 2011. And he justified Barack Obama. Barama. Maybe I'll start calling him Barama. Justified the targeting, which was approved by Barama, on the basis that al-Awlaki posed an imminent threat to the United States and that capturing him was not feasible at the time. So President Trump orders strikes on drug boats in the middle of international waters following drugs that ended up killing every day up to 300 Americans, where the precursors were shipped from China to Mexico to Venezuela, and then they're going to mule all of this deadly poison and want to get away with it. And as a matter of fact, the article that I illustrated and showed on Tuesday night indicated that the drug boat runners think this is cool. This is some cool beans. I enjoy being amped up like this, probably because they're on drugs as well. But hey, I'm a type A drug personality. Why wouldn't I be? Why wouldn't I want to be? I am. It's just who I am. So there was another article by Isaac Shore in the New York Post. The kill order smear. This is a hoax. HOAXXX. On a 3-hour tour. That boat was fast because it was only on a 3-hour tour. Thanks, UBG. Man, how sad. Hey, Pumpcrotic Artist is in chat. By the way, let me go up here. And he is the gentleman, by the way, Rich Gibbs, who sent me this for the Saloon. And he's the gentleman that sent me this for the Saloon. I'm getting them framed for Christmas just as we speak. So my continuing thanks to him for that. But this thing with Pete Hegseth, it's a hoax. It's a hoax. And again, it's aimed at Donald John Trump, OMB, Orange Man Bad, the guy with the dead orange cat on his head, and nobody else. Hegseth is just there to get in the way. But if Hegseth falls, that's just a side benefit. The primary benefit is trying to get at President Trump. Now, Lieutenant Colonel Robert McGinnis basically answers, should America continue to blow narco-terrorists out of the water? Well, leftists, even leftists, have said there are no such things as narco-terrorists. Would it shock you? I hope you're sitting down to realize that I have a video that disputes that. Go.
Is this a war crime or is this a legitimate strike on a designated terror group?
Well, Article 2 gives President Trump the right to defend this country. The questions that were raised by Pete Hegseth there about the fog of war are very true. You know, at sea, when you're firing from either a drone or from a F-18, you're looking at a target as a point in the middle of a vast ocean. You don't know what it is specifically, how many bodies are aboard, what the cargo is, but you're relying upon the intelligence you've been given. So they struck it, and apparently the ISR indicated that it was not sunk, and therefore Admiral Bradley said, strike it again.
Yep.
Now, those are pretty typical rules of engagement anywhere in the battlefield, whether it's in the air or on the sea or on land. And so,
so because I suppose what we should have done is sent a 120,000 ton aircraft carrier, which wouldn't have even been remotely in the area to go rescue 2 people. Because we've never double tapped people before. That's never happened with me either, as a matter of fact, or soldiers. And Trump said, essentially, you know what? Every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives, and we save drugs from coming in to kill people in the United States of America. And this is what he said.
Every boat we knock out, we save 25,000 American lives. That's right. And if you look at our numbers, the drugs coming in through sea are down 91%. I'm surprised there's 9%. I don't know who's doing the 9%, but it's down 91, and we're going to start very soon on land, and I'm sure you're thrilled.
We're going to start very soon on land. Now, if you're a smart thinking human being, unlike a leftist, because a leftist interprets that as meaning we're putting boots on the ground. We're going to send our beloved American soldiers into harm's way in Venezuela. You guys do realize that Maduro got into Venezuela, and that was an illegal election. He simply was a strong man that took the country, and he is the leading individual in the drug gang that runs Venezuela. That Maduro was already negotiating and in the process of trying to negotiate with Iran, saying, take me, you must take me because OMB. When he says land, my guess is he's probably thinking of drones or missiles. Do you remember under 45, in the first 3 or 4 days, maybe week, maybe a month even, since the beginning of the 45 regime, he sent cruise missiles, if I'm not mistaken, into Syria. And Trump loves Russia. He loves Putin. He loves him some commies. And what he did is he sent in cruise missiles into Syria and killed a bunch of Russians that were teaching Syrians how to operate Russian pieces of military equipment. War pieces, war material, artillery pieces, rockets, etc. That's how much Trump loves him some Russia. And nobody said a thing in terms of, oh my, no, you can't send anything. You can't send anything into Syria because, people might get angry at us and the Demorats might get angry. By the way, anybody remember back in 1989? This has been all over the fruited plain. the fruited social media plane. And I went and got it here. I had the thought earlier, and then somebody beat me to it and splashed it all around social media, but I have a memory too, kind of, sort of, some days. So in 1989, Biden, kind of, sort of, when he had hair, at least they were better hair plugs then, delivered some kind of a televised message from the Demorats and himself, calling on Bush to do more than stop the flow of drugs into the country. Wait, what did he advocate? In calling for more prisons and more cops, Biden in 1989 said Democrats want the creation of a strike force to attack drug dealers before they reach our borders. This is a quote. And again, this is entirely the show tonight. It's okay when we say it. It's okay when we do it. But we'll excoriate you for doing the same thing that we did. And so the quote directly from Biden was, let's go after the drug lords where they live with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it. They must know it.
Every president for the past 2 decades, Democrat and Republican alike, has declared war on drugs. And each of them has lost that war and lost it miserably. They lost because they attempted to deal with only part of the drug problem. They lost because their initiatives were pulled apart by bureaucratic squabbling among their advisors.
Like you.
They lost because they always did too little and they did it too late. We don't oppose the president's plan. All we want to do is strengthen it. We don't doubt his resolve. All we want to do is stiffen it. The trouble is that the president's proposals are not big enough to deal with the problem.
Not big enough to deal with the problem. To me, that seems like we want more explosives, more ordnance, more strikes. Or am I just speaking out of turn? Am I completely misinterpreting what Joe Biden happened to say in 1989? And I don't believe that I did. And this next part was the absolute most Ricky Tick fucking juiciest bit that I'd seen in quite some time. Because this is ABC's Martha Raddatz giving the high holy fuck you to the rest of the Demorats on the Hill with regard to, oh, poor Pete is sinking more brown people and killing them, and he's a war criminal, and Trump's a war criminal. Martha Raddatz on ABC is nothing like a conservative, and yet here's a perfect example. As you well know, it's quite well documented, in great detail, I might add, that BZ despises leftists and Democrats. I don't just hate you, I despise you. And I primarily am not concerned in the slightest with engaging you in any convo whatsoever. None, because you're stupid. It's like trying to argue with Jell-O or bark on a tree or a potted ficus. It just can't be done mostly. So I don't try to argue with these people. The next clip that I'm going to play for you, I got into, well, not an active argument per se with a leftist on Getter. He said he's a conservative, but all of his crap was, I hate Trump, I hate Trump, OMB, I hate Trump, TDS, I hate Trump. By the way, if you just tuned in, I hate Trump. So he kept pounding me one day over the course of about 2 days with meme after meme, story after story. Hegseth is a war criminal. Trump is a war criminal. Hegseth, Trump is a war criminal. The Department of War is comprised of war criminals. And all I did was copy this and paste it and send it back to him. 33 seconds of Martha Raddatz. Listen.
And tonight, new information. According to a source familiar with the incident, the two survivors climbed back onto the boat after the initial strike. They were believed to be potentially in communication with others and salvaging some of the drugs. Because of that, it was determined they were still in the fight and valid targets. A JAG officer was also giving legal advice. So,
by the way, did you know that a JAG officer is called a JAG-off?
Again, David, that video will be key, and Admiral Bradley will be on the Hill tomorrow behind closed doors.
So it's like, Mikhail, stop. And wouldn't you know it, after I sent that piece to him, I never heard anything back from this guy at all. I think I can do this in the next couple of minutes. You know, Mission Ready Men, Earl Jackson, had a great show this morning. And you can go to the SHR Media YouTube channel, and you can go watch Mission Ready Men by Earl Jackson and his show this morning. Because he went into what I would consider to be a greater amount of detail than I have the time or inclination to do tonight. Mostly because he's already carried it. And mostly because I've weighed in on this topic any number of times. I may weigh in a little bit further detail perhaps next week. But essentially, Earl went in and said something similar to, and I've been called a defeatist by pointing out some facts to conservatives or Republicans. I think mostly Republicans. And I'm not positive enough. Well, I'm a realist, and I have to look at history. And one of the things that history and Santayana have taught me is that the best predictor of future performance, or the last, or the lack thereof, I should say, is past performance, or the lack thereof. It's generally a fairly good indicator of what you've seen in the past will likely, more than likely, be replicated in the future. Now, if you apply that to the Republicans, then that's why I started to say we have to come to grips as Republicans and conservatives. Am I a registered Republican? I am not. Was I at one time? Yes, I was. I used to send money to the RNC. I do not do it anymore because they have historically pissed away all of my very good taxpayer dollars. So I send money specifically to individuals. And there are some people who are within the sound of my voice who know and have been recipients of some of my largesse in politics and out of politics. So I do not send money to the RNC, but I am still a contributor on a halfway decent scale. Not a massive scale by any stretch of the imagination whatsoever. But I've said for some time, the thing that we have to realize as conservatives is that every bit of electron, every electrical charge that goes through our brain synapses, everything that we think of as a cogent and logical and factual argument is that for which the other side mostly couldn't care less. All they have are emotions. We have this big bag, this big mug, coffee mug, this KC-135 full of facts and logic and stats. And we can trot all of this out to them and try to lead a horse to water. But you can't make them drink. All they have are emotions. And like I said prior, it's like trying to argue. I don't argue with these people anymore because it's like trying to argue with a tire or a hubcap or a rock. Conceptually, it's just not possible. The only thing that Demorats know and respect, just like Muzzies, is brute force and numbers. As you can see, all the violence to which they've resulted and decided that they're going to embrace and go to when you try to argue with them back or present a convo back to them. And then You've seen the video where the chick is talking to the chick and the leftist chick doesn't want to hear it anymore and just pops her in the head. Charlie Kirk got killed by a weird-ass fuzzy lover of trannies because he didn't listen to Charlie Kirk. He really didn't care what Charlie Kirk said. All he knew is what he thought Charlie Kirk was. Good enough for him. Pow, on live TV. Numerous other examples. So that's why I say the only thing that Demorats and leftists and Islam understands is brute force and or brute force and violence by superior numbers. And no matter how self-assured or assuaged we might be that, look at that crazy ass chick, no one can win with that kind of platform. Well, she lost last, Thursday? Afton Bain is like, is she the daughter of, I am Bain. I have come for you back. Is she his daughter? I don't know. She's a fucking nutcase. And so is the other chick that won the mayorship of Portland. Or was it Seattle? I'm not sure which. They're both the same. They're both crazy cities. And so when people attempt to make an argument with them, I don't try. Those days are done. I'm 76. I'm too old for that stupid bullshit. I have zero inclination to do that. All they have are emotions. They couldn't give a crap less about what it is that you try to trot out to them in terms of, as far as they're concerned, it's all specious, a lie. You're Hitler, and because I deem you Hitler, you're worth killing. And if I can't kill you outright, I'll figure out some way of getting to you. Yes, so as we saw in New York City, they can win behind those platforms. Oh my God, I'm late.
Conservative media done right. You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
Mission log. Intrigue. I mean, let's face it, who's even counting anymore? The Lost Wanderer is officially off course, chasing rogue rocket launches, fringe science, and things that probably violate causality. If it burns fuel, bends time, or makes scientists very uncomfortable, yeah, I'm probably going to talk about it. Every other Sunday on KLRN Radio, The Lost Wanderer, because space doesn't come with a roadmap, and honestly, I wouldn't follow if it did.
Hello, I'm Matt, a student at Hillsdale College. Here's Hillsdale President Larry Arnn on the continuing relevance of the Constitution.
Many argue today that the Constitution is outdated because it addresses problems peculiar to the 18th century. Some parts of the Constitution do read rather quaintly. Consider the injunction against titles of nobility in Article 1, Section 9 of the Constitution. But is that so outdated? The purpose of the injunction is to prevent the government granting special privileges to some for partisan reasons. This strikes at the heart of the rule of law. The crony capitalism so common today is a place where the government bestows favors and tax dollars on some businesses to give them a leg up over others. This is exactly the kind of thing the Constitution was meant to prohibit. The Constitution is not so outdated after all.
This Constitution Minute was brought to you by Hillsdale College. To join the national conversation on the Constitution, go to constitutionminute.com.
Hey fellas, are you mission ready? You need to check out Mission Ready Men via Earl Big E Jackson on Tuesdays and Thursdays, 9 a.m. Pacific, 11 a.m. Central, and noon Eastern. It's a show that equips you to navigate our society's challenges from a biblical perspective with courage and conviction. Tune into Mission Ready Men as we examine our culture through the prism of biblical truths, teachings, and how to apply them in our daily lives. Prepare to step up, stand out, and step into your role as a man as ordained by God. That's Mission Ready Men, hosted by Earl Jackson on the SHR Media Network. And get mission ready.
Want to make an immediate difference in the life of a critically ill child? You have the ability to do that right now. Make a donation to Dream Makers for Life. the organization that restores dreams to seriously ill children and their families. You can sponsor a dream pack for a child, which contains a clear PVC backpack, a dry erase board adventure coloring book, a journal, and dry erase markers to inspire a critically ill child to envision a future adventure and hope. Want to become a dream maker for life yourself? Go to dreamforlife.org. That's dreamforlife.org. Help a child. Help a family. There is always hope.
You're listening to the SHR Media Network.
And it's the final half hour of the show. Thanks to everyone for being here tonight. Thanks to KLRN for re-sizzling the show prior and for carrying it live tonight, BZ, in the saloon with his flashing reindeer horn thing, whatever this is, and wearing his hat specifically from Leho Fuchs, because I was going to get a big dish of beef chow mein. Wahoo Werewolves of London. I was talking about the Republicans. And I was talking about, in reference to Mission Ready Men, Earl Jackson, and his show earlier this morning. And essentially what I was saying, and before I was so rudely interrupted by a break, which I created myself and hit the button for. So I guess it really wasn't all that rude. You know, when people say, oh, nobody can win behind those platforms, look at New York City. People were saying initially, oh, he can't win. A commie, muzzy, anti-Semitic, piece of shit, Islamic, lying, Takia loving, commie, piece of filth. Other than that, I love the guy. I really do love the guy. He can't win New York City. You know, of course, he won New York City. And now people are saying, oh, wait a minute. You know, oh, yeah. UBG says, look at the new AG in Virginia. Yeah, good point. Thank you. But Mom Donnie can't win. And now, because to be honest, I don't live anywhere near New York City. I already worked in New York City in the 70s. When it was worse then than it was now. It truly was a significant shithole under Lindsay at the time, which is why I never want to go back to the Northeast. I never want to go back to New York City. Never. And I said then and I said now, you know, the only thing that Mom Donnie needed and got, superior numbers. And all that. Well, he can't win. He can't do that. I'm trying to use logic and rationality. Didn't make a damn difference. You can't argue with these people. I'm not convinced they're people. You know, initially it was Republicans versus Democrats. And then it became sort of right versus wrong, then left versus right. And now it's good versus evil. I got no problem, zero problem quantifying it in that way. It is, in fact, good versus eagle. Good is an eagle, okay? Don't cross paths and don't cross the streams. All they need and got were superior numbers on voting day. And so what we think or what we espouse, and here's our plan, here's our tactics, meaningless. The person who won a lot of crap for Trump and tried to do it in, you know, if we could somehow clone 10,000 Scott Presslers and send him all over the United States, we might actually be able to get something done. He was one of the primary individuals who got Trump elected and then got some of Trump's people elected, because it was all about getting out, working hard, and shoe leather. KOD, knock on doors. When I was in homicide, we went by the acronym of GOYAKOD, GOYAKOD. And GOYAKOD meant get off your ass, knock on doors. That's how you get crap done. But the Republicans are not really interested in doing any of that. And historically, that has always been the biggest Republican problem, getting people out to vote. Republicans are either way too dismissive, and I got into Earl's chat for a little bit before I had to zazz off for a little medicinal appointment. You don't want to look under this hat. You do not. And I said it's like a bifurcated notation that we're losing. We're trying to make the argument that these are the reasons why we're the better people. On the other hand, you're speaking to a can of spam, and that's what these people have the intelligence of, minus the key so that you can even open it. Boy, am I speaking to a lot of people over the head who A, have no idea what the hell spam is, and B, have never opened a can of spam in their lives. Until the nukes drop, then you'll go, God, I wish I had a fucking can of rectangular spam. Spam, 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 spam. I love Monty. As my civics teacher told me in the 60s, true then, true now, Demorats don't win elections, Republicans lose them. And then there's also a major factor that few people mention, but it's a truism. And you tell me that I'm wrong when I say this. Leftists are generally people who have crappy or shitty little jobs because of their philosophies or their genetic, mental, defective brains. Okay. Everybody else is out working so that the parasites can get their worms. So the people that should be out marching aren't marching because they have actual jobs to do. More taxes. Work harder. Longer hours. Get going. We have our free shit to collect, and you're responsible. And that's, I think, one of the major unspoken reasons that Republicans don't get out to vote that much. A, they're busy and they're tired, and they're very generally very nice people, but they just their fingers are not dipped in the blood of politics. They may not be involved in politics, but politics always is interested in them, comma, baby. And you know that to be true. So I think that the fact that people are busy, you can rally the troops, circle the wagons on some issues, but the biggest problem with the Republicans is Trump is he's gone. He's the proverbial, he is the lamest of ducks. I love my Trump 2028 hat because it sets leftists on fire. Cities on Flame with Rock and Roll, Blue Oyster Cult. Great song. But my hat sets them on fire. He's not around. What do you do? Upon whom do you rally around if you don't have Trump? You're not going to have Trump. And under 47, there have been any number of times when I have disagreed with Trump. That doesn't mean that I wouldn't vote for him again. Trump has pissed me off royally under any number of circumstances, but we just have to figure out how to get people, Republicans, conservatives, off their asses to get in to vote. One of the things that we need to do. This is how the leftists and the Demorats are messaging. And they message like Joseph Goebbels and his ass is on fire. And somebody just poured butane over his hair and lit that on fire as well. They know how to message. Here's Axios. Grocery price pain rises in warning sign for Trump and GOP. Well, there are few big markets that the American media maggots don't own. They're losing percentile of that. But the people that aren't particularly interested in politics are the folks that watch the American media maggots. Although even a few of them, arthritis, are starting to come around a wee little bit because the times, they are a-changing. But they're not changing so quickly and readily that we can be assumptive and we're going to kick ass in 2026. Get your fucking messaging out of your ass. Clean the chocolate off of it and display it. And start circling wagons yourselves. Because guaranteed, this crap right here, this ain't going away. This is not going away. When, who was it that said, I think it was one of the Bushes, who said, it's the economy, stupid. Well, yeah, it's the economy, stupid. And that's what they're hoping. That's what Demorats and leftists are hoping. Except this may be waiting in the wings, potentially. Now, Kevin Hassett, who's on the right, as far as I know, is one of the few individuals that is thought of to replace as Fed chair. And so information is starting to come in which illuminates that the Fed may cut interest rates next week. I'm not taking this home. I'm not blasting this on klaxon and bells. Maybe it happens, maybe it doesn't. All I'm saying is the potentiality maybe exists, and if it does, that will be probably one of the better things to occur for the Republicans in the foreseeable future. And then, moreover, if it carries over through Christmas and into the new year, quite possibly. Now, the other things you're not hearing is this has been one of the best Thanksgivings in a long time in terms of Black Friday. And purchases are up. And online purchases are up. Well, if things are so damn bleak, why would that be true? Tim Burchett, where is he? I think he's Tennessee. I'm not sure. I think Burchett is out of Tennessee. But the dude is pretty smart. And I like this guy. And he makes some comments here that I think are very wise. And the rest of the GOP would be very wise to listen to.
I'm always concerned, to be honest with you. I always say either unscared or unopposed. I've been to the district several times. I know Matt very well. He's an excellent candidate. And complacency within our party is a problem.
Now he's talking about Matt Van Epps, who did, in fact, win over Afton Bain. Bain.
12% of the population goes out and votes. I mean, that's the problem with both parties. We have evangelical Christians, which I associate with, is in my beliefs. 45% of them don't go to the polls. 30% of gun owners don't go to the polls. And our schools are mass producing Marxist in that belief system. And yeah, we got to
stop. Our schools are mass producing Marxists. That's the first time tonight. And I had to do that because, oh my God, you nailed it, Tim Burchett.
Real problem, and we better wake up. And Tennessee was, I think we drew the line in the sand. I think they woke up and they got to the polls.
Stop. These were the facts. This is where we need to pay attention to the facts. We can't afford to be emos. We must listen and heed the facts. The GOP has a huge complacency problem. Check. 45% of evangelicals. Well, okay. Honestly, there isn't really much left in this. Okay, so I have an excuse. 45% of evangelicals skip voting. Check. 30% of gun owners stay home. Check. But what the hell? Do you not care? That makes zero sense. You're a supporter of the Second Amendment, and yet a third of gun owners just go, well, I'm doing something else today. Oh, maybe I'm going to go out and shoot. As your rights go pissing out the window in a cold rain, mingling and turning everything a very lighter shade of yellow. We're letting schools mass produce Marxists while we nap. Yeah, hello. Let's visit Santayana once again. And here's another thing. Then we have rhinos. Then we have people like Rand Paul, whom occasionally I will go with. But Rand Paul appears he's a libertarian, just like his daddy, Ron Paul. Ron Paul is a 1 or 2 trick pony. Let's audit the Fed. Loved it. Okay, great. Super idea. Let's do it. Never did it. Rand Paul and Demorat senators file Venezuela war powers resolution. Despite all the facts that I have since provided to everyone here, should I send this show to Rand Paul? We've done it before. We'll do it again. If we're Demorats, it's okay if we do it, but it's bad for everybody else. Apparently, the Demorats have convinced Rand Paul of that as well. Fabulous. And this also needs to go up. I'm not going to go into great detail, but you see the thrust of where this article, for example, is going. Washington Examiner, Trump versus the Democrats on the affordability crisis. There comes a time when you have to take some of this stuff seriously. Now, I don't have it up right here, but I've been putting and probably pissing off lots of people from California in there. Evil Trump, he just reduced my gas prices here in North Idaho again. In California is, $75, 75 and 9 cents or whatever the hell it is per gallon in California. That's pretty good messaging. And no, I'm not going to be going into overtime, but I think that I have a ton of happy stories that I'm just not going to be able to get into. Because for me tonight, there were other priorities to make sure that other folks realized. And there's just a big old ton of happy stories. No, I probably am not going to do a show this weekend. I'm kind of weekend showed out. But I will be back Tuesday night, and I will be back Thursday night to provide more buttery political goodness for everyone. But in this article, Trump versus the Democrats on the affordability crisis, you got to take this stuff seriously. You have to have answers for it. And then you have to provide alternatives for this. And you have to keep pounding the message. The medium is the message. You can have a good message, and occasionally the GOP have a pretty good message. But if you don't have the medium, this is a book from Alvin Toffler from 1970, for God's sake, that I had to study in college just before I graduated. The medium, Medium is the Message by Marshall McLuhan, which essentially said you can have the best message. You can have the best information. You can be an incredibly whip-smart individual, and you've got some great things to get out to the populace. But if you don't have a ways and means of getting the information out there and stay on top of it, that great message, whatever it may be, is not going to get disseminated properly. And people are not going to hear it. They're not going to miss it. Well, they will miss it, I should say. But they don't know what they missed. You have to be on point. You have to be on message all the time. And the Republicans are having a difficult time coalescing. You know, there is no one central character except for Trump now, but Trump is looking at things through his eyes. And he's looking at his things from the Oval Office. You know, the people here, Trump versus the Demorats on the affordability crisis. One of the things that I was going to show you in Happy Stories tonight was the fact that, no, it's not all bleak. It is not all damn bleak. There's a lot of good stuff that's happening in the economy. And my God, I'm telling you, if this happens, if next week, for example, the interest rate gets cut at all, just please give us a full percent. Cut it a full percent, not this 0.025%. Oh, you know, I'm shrinking. Get some actual movement out there and try to save and help the people that need help, particularly now as Christmas comes around. And again, like I said at the beginning of the show, Merry Christmas to everybody from BZ and also from the SHR Media Network. One of my favorite times of year, now that I get to appreciate it. You know, for years, Christmas and Thanksgiving and holidays didn't mean a crap to me because I was a cop. I never got any of those days off. I didn't begin to get regular days off. Well, the first 5 years that I was in law enforcement, I got nothing off. And then when I came back and worked for a coastal county in California, Califalia, always spell it with a K, I got nothing off. Then I went to the Sacramento Sheriff's Department in 1980, and it was at least another 15 years there before I began to get holidays off. So in one way, holidays don't mean that much to me because they never did, because I always had to work. But it's nice to be able to have the luxury now and wish people a Merry Christmas. That being said, the Republicans still, as I say, they got's an issue, Mang. And it's an issue that just needs to be addressed. Now, Phantom says in chat, when you worked, you didn't know what a break off was. No, basically, you had a computer in front of you, or originally, when I first started in patrol, you had a radio and a mic, and you were dispatched calls over the microphone, and there was a little speaker down below on the hump, on the same hump under which your shotgun sat behind you between the seats. And so you shagged calls for your shift, whether your shift was 10 hours or 12 hours. All you did was listen to the radio and or push the computer button. New call, new call, new call, new call. That's the way it was. Now I begin to actually start to appreciate holidays. And so with that, let me put this up before I leave. Just to let everybody know, at SHR, we really appreciate, SHR really appreciates, I really appreciate your listening. And we appreciate the time that you take, particularly in consideration of this being very, very late at night. You know, it's almost 1 a.m. on the East Coast. But this is just to indicate that SHR has you covered. My show, Tuesday and Thursday nights, a late night show. And then I mentioned Mission Ready Men, Earl Jackson. He's got you covered Tuesday and Thursday at 9 a.m. in the morning. And then Monday and Wednesday, Sean Lewis from the Edge of Liberty. He's got you covered. And then Jersey Joe, the Reaver of Common Sense. He's got you covered Monday and Friday. And then I would be remiss if I also didn't mention my beloved buddies at KLRN, always doing great things and working in concert with SHR Media. And to you, Rick Robinson, and all the other folks at KLRN. Wait, I'm SHR. Geez, stop. We appreciate how you help us, and we appreciate what you do for us. It's hard to make it in this world of podcasts. It's always kind of tough. It's cutthroat. It's dog eat dog. Wait a minute. That's how I should end the show. It's dog eat dog. And I'm wearing Milk-Bone underwear. And with that, I must say, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, thanks for listening to BZ's Berserk Bobcat Saloon radio show, live and direct right here in the SHR Media Network, and carried tonight graciously and kindly by Rick Robinson, KLRN. Always got to give a plug, always very much appreciated. So, also, as per normal, I must say, because I'm contractually obligated, promotional consideration is by the Lockheed Martin Skunk Works and also by Shure and Electro Voice microphones and by the Arrakis people who make my board, my mixer, and also the people at Pratt & Whitney Engines, whose engines are dependable and produce thrust you can trust. As I said before, tiaras are by My Little Pony. I love this hat. I love my reindeer. See the tiara? See? And also, thanks to my personal KC-135 Kettle One refueling team with whom I shall be consorting in less than 10 minutes, everybody, everyone, have a great weekend. God bless. Take care. Be safe.
Everybody quiet down now and get some sleep.
Good night, everybody.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Ben. Good night, everyone.
Good night, Mama. Good night, Daddy.
Good night, children. Good night, Daddy. Good night, Elizabeth.
Good night, John Boy. Good night, Jim Bob. Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, Jim Bob.
What's going on? I was asleep. What's everybody doing?
Good night,
Good night, Jim Bob.
Good night, and good luck.